In the dimly lit chambers of Renaissance Florence, where power shifted like shadows in candlelight, Niccolò Machiavelli understood a truth that modern self-help gurus dare not speak. Confidence is not born from positive thinking or gentle affirmations, but forged in the crucible of strategic ruthlessness and unflinching self-awareness. The kind of confidence that moves mountains and topples kingdoms does not emerge from comfort zones or safe spaces. It is hammered into existence through deliberate confrontation with reality's harshest truths. The first principle that separates the truly confident from the merely hopeful lies in the complete abandonment of the need for universal approval. Machiavelli observed that princes who sought to please everyone inevitably pleased no one, becoming weak and indecisive in their desperate attempts to maintain popularity. This same poison infects modern individuals who mistake likability for respect, who confuse being agreeable with being strong. The ruthless truth is that confident people understand they cannot control others' opinions, nor should they waste energy trying to do so. Consider the businessman who presents his revolutionary idea to a board of directors. If he has internalized this principle, he does not dilute his vision to accommodate every skeptical voice or modify his passion to appear more palatable to conservative minds. Instead, he presents with conviction, understanding that strong ideas naturally create division, and that division is preferable to indifference. He has studied his proposal meticulously, anticipated objections, and prepared counterarguments not to please but to prevail. When criticism comes, and it always does, he does not take it personally because his confidence is not dependent on their validation. This principle extends far beyond professional settings. In social situations, the confident individual does not constantly monitor facial expressions for signs of approval or disapproval. They do not apologize for their presence or downplay their achievements to make others comfortable. They understand that their worth is not determined by consensus but by their own standards and accomplishments. This does not mean being arrogant or dismissive, rather, it means being secure enough in one's own value that external validation becomes unnecessary rather than desperately sought. The second principle demands the complete ownership of one's failures without the luxury of self-pity or blame deflection. Machiavelli wrote extensively about fortune and how wise rulers prepare for her fickleness rather than merely hoping for her favor. In modern terms, this translates to understanding that setbacks, failures, and disappointments are not aberrations to be avoided but inevitable aspects of any meaningful endeavor. The difference between the confident and the defeated lies not in their ability to avoid failure but in their capacity to metabolize it into strength. When a project fails, when a relationship ends, when an investment turns sour, the temptation is to seek external causes: bad luck, unfair competition, others' incompetence, or systemic obstacles. While these factors may indeed contribute to negative outcomes, the confident individual focuses exclusively on what they could have done differently. This is not self-flagellation but strategic analysis. Every failure becomes a case study, every setback a data point for future improvement. The entrepreneur whose startup fails does not waste time blaming market conditions or investor bias. Instead, they conduct a merciless postmortem. Was the product market fit properly validated? Were the financial projections realistic? Was the team composition optimal? Did they pivot quickly enough when early indicators showed problems? This analysis is conducted without emotional attachment to being right or protecting the ego. The goal is not to feel good but to become formidable. This principle also involves accepting responsibility for one's emotional state. Confident people understand that while they cannot control what happens to them, they have absolute authority over their responses. They do not blame others for making them angry, disappointed, or frustrated. They recognize these emotions as information about their own expectations and reactions, not indictments of external circumstances. This level of responsibility is initially uncomfortable because it removes the psychological comfort of victimhood, but it ultimately provides tremendous power because it places control firmly in their own hands. The third principle requires the cultivation of strategic patience while maintaining relentless momentum. Machiavelli understood that timing in politics could mean the difference between victory and exile, between building an empire and losing one's head. Modern confidence requires the same sophisticated understanding of when to push forward aggressively and when to consolidate gains and prepare for the next advance. This principle manifests in career development as the ability to distinguish between productive struggle and futile grinding. The confident professional knows when to endure short-term discomfort for long-term positioning and when a situation has become genuinely untenable. They can spend years building expertise in a field not because they enjoy every moment of the process but because they understand that mastery requires sustained effort over time. They do not expect immediate gratification or quick wins but are willing to invest consistently in their own development. However, this patience is not passive. It is coupled with constant preparation and opportunism. While waiting for the right moment to make a major career move, they are building skills, expanding networks, and gathering intelligence about their industry. When opportunity does present itself, they are prepared to act decisively rather than scrambling to catch up. In personal relationships, this principle translates to not forcing outcomes or trying to accelerate natural processes. The confident individual does not pursue romantic interests desperately or try to rush friendships into intimacy. They understand that genuine connections develop organically and that trying to manufacture them often destroys them. Instead, they focus on becoming the kind of person that others naturally want to be around: competent, interesting, reliable, and authentic, and they allow relationships to develop at their natural pace. The fourth principle involves the systematic development of multiple competencies to reduce dependence on any single source of identity or income. Machiavelli advised princes to understand not just politics but military strategy, economics, and human psychology. A ruler dependent on a single skill or ally was vulnerable to sudden reversal of fortune. Similarly, modern confidence requires building a portfolio of capabilities that provide both flexibility and security. This does not mean becoming a superficial generalist but rather developing depth in a primary area while building competence in complementary fields. The marketing executive who also understands data analysis, project management, and basic psychology is far more valuable and, therefore, more confident than one who knows only marketing. They can contribute to strategic discussions, manage their own projects effectively, and understand the human dynamics that drive consumer behavior. The financial advisor who also has skills in technology, communication, and basic legal principles can provide more comprehensive service to clients and is less vulnerable to industry disruption. They can adapt their practice to changing market conditions, communicate complex concepts clearly, and navigate regulatory requirements without complete dependence on external experts. This principle extends beyond professional skills to personal capabilities. Confidence comes from knowing that you can handle a wide range of situations without panic or helplessness. This might mean learning basic home repair, understanding personal finance, developing cooking skills, or maintaining physical fitness. Each additional competency reduces dependence on others and increases self-reliance, which directly feeds confidence. The confident individual also understands that competence is not a destination but a process. They continuously identify areas where their knowledge or skills are insufficient and systematically work to improve them. This is not perfectionism but pragmatism, understanding that the world rewards capability and that capability must be constantly updated to remain relevant. Part 2, the architecture of psychological dominance. The fifth principle demands the development of what Machiavelli would recognize as psychological sovereignty, the absolute refusal to be mentally colonized by others' emotional states, opinions, or expectations. In his analysis of effective leadership, Machiavelli noted that successful rulers maintained their own counsel even when surrounded by advisors, critics, and flatterers. They could listen to input without being swayed by every wind of opinion or momentary emotional appeal. This principle begins with understanding the difference between empathy and emotional contagion. Empathy involves understanding others' emotional states without necessarily experiencing them yourself. Emotional contagion, by contrast, means automatically absorbing and reflecting the emotions of those around you. Confident people develop the ability to recognize and understand others' emotions while maintaining their own emotional equilibrium. In practice, this means not allowing others' anxiety to make you anxious, their anger to make you defensive, or their sadness to drain your energy. When dealing with a panic-stricken colleague who insists that a project is doomed, the confident person can acknowledge their concerns and even take appropriate action to address real risks without adopting their emotional state. They can remain calm and analytical while the other person is spiraling, which often has the effect of actually calming the situation rather than escalating it. This principle also involves immunity to manipulation through guilt, shame, or social pressure. Confident people understand that others will attempt to control their behavior by making them feel bad about pursuing their own interests or maintaining their boundaries. They recognize these attempts not as legitimate moral claims but as strategic moves in interpersonal dynamics. When someone says, "If you really cared about me, you would," or "everyone thinks you should," the confident person evaluates the actual request on its merits rather than being swayed by the emotional manipulation. The development of psychological sovereignty requires conscious practice. It means regularly examining your thoughts and emotions to identify which ones are genuinely yours and which ones you have absorbed from external sources. It means making decisions based on your own values and analysis rather than on what you think others expect or want. It means being willing to disappoint people when their expectations conflict with your authentic choices. This does not require becoming cold or unfeeling. The confident person can be deeply caring and supportive while still maintaining their own emotional boundaries. They can offer genuine help and sympathy without taking responsibility for others' emotional states or allowing those states to determine their own mood and decisions. The sixth principle involves the strategic use of controlled vulnerability and authentic self-disclosure to build genuine connections while maintaining personal power. Machiavelli understood that effective rulers needed to balance strength with humanity, appearing both formidable and relatable depending on circumstances. This sophisticated approach to interpersonal relations is essential for modern confidence. Many people make the mistake of believing that confidence requires constant invulnerability, never admitting mistakes, never showing uncertainty, never appearing less than completely in control. This approach often backfires because it creates distance between the individual and others, making genuine connection impossible. People cannot relate to someone who appears perfect, and they often interpret constant invulnerability as arrogance or insecurity masquerading as strength. The truly confident person understands that selective vulnerability can actually enhance their influence and likability. They can admit when they do not know something, acknowledge past mistakes, and show appropriate emotion without undermining their authority. The key is that this vulnerability is strategic rather than compulsive. They choose when and how to show their human side rather than being an open book at all times. A confident leader might say to their team, "I made a significant error in judgment on our last project, and I want to share what I learned so we can avoid similar problems in the future." This admission actually increases their credibility because it demonstrates self-awareness and commitment to improvement. It also creates an environment where others feel safe to admit their own mistakes, leading to better problem-solving and team dynamics. In personal relationships, strategic vulnerability means sharing your struggles and uncertainties with trusted friends while not overwhelming them with constant emotional processing. It means being honest about your fears and insecurities when appropriate while not using emotional disclosure as a way to seek reassurance or validation. The confident person shares their inner life to deepen connection, not to get others to manage their emotions for them. This principle also involves understanding the difference between confidence and perfection. Confident people are comfortable with their imperfections because they understand that these do not define their overall worth or capability. They can acknowledge areas where they need improvement without it threatening their self-concept. This comfort with imperfection paradoxically makes them more trustworthy and influential because others sense their authenticity. The seventh principle requires the development of what might be called strategic indifference, the ability to remain emotionally neutral about outcomes while maintaining full commitment to the process. Machiavelli observed that effective rulers could pursue their goals with passion while remaining psychologically prepared for failure. This detachment from results was not defeatism but, rather, a form of mental protection that allowed them to think clearly under pressure. In modern terms, this means caring deeply about doing your best work while not being attached to specific outcomes that are beyond your complete control. The confident salesperson gives every presentation their full effort and skill while understanding that individual sales depend on factors beyond their influence, the client's budget, timing, internal politics, or competitive situation. They measure their success by the quality of their preparation and performance, not solely by whether they close every deal. This principle is particularly important in creative endeavors where external validation can be unpredictable and often arbitrary. The confident writer writes the best book they can while understanding that commercial success depends on market factors, timing, and luck that they cannot control. They find satisfaction in the craft itself and in their own growth as an artist, rather than making their self-worth dependent on sales figures or critical reviews. Strategic indifference also applies to social situations and relationships. The confident person can invest genuinely in friendships and romantic relationships while understanding that other people's responses are ultimately beyond their control. They can be authentic and caring without becoming anxious about whether others reciprocate their feelings or approve of their choices. This paradoxically makes them more attractive and influential because others sense that they are not needy or desperate for validation. This does not mean becoming apathetic or uncommitted. Rather, it means understanding that your job is to control your own actions and attitudes, not to control the universe's response to them. This perspective actually increases effectiveness because it reduces anxiety and allows for clearer thinking and better decision-making. The eighth and most ruthless principle involves the systematic elimination of self-deception and the cultivation of brutal honesty about your own capabilities, motivations, and circumstances. Machiavelli was famous for his unflinching analysis of political reality, refusing to romanticize or idealize human nature or political processes. He insisted on seeing things as they actually were rather than as he wished them to be. This same intellectual honesty is essential for developing genuine confidence. Self-deception is one of confidence's greatest enemies because it prevents accurate assessment of both opportunities and threats. The person who overestimates their abilities sets themselves up for devastating failures that could have been avoided with better self-knowledge. Equally problematic is the person who underestimates their capabilities and misses opportunities due to unnecessary fear or false modesty. Developing brutal honesty requires regular self-inventory. This might involve seeking feedback from trusted colleagues, mentors, or friends who will tell you the truth rather than what they think you want to hear. It means examining your past decisions and their outcomes without the bias of hindsight justification. It means acknowledging both your strengths and weaknesses without sugarcoating either. This principle also involves being honest about your motivations. Many people pursue goals for reasons they do not consciously acknowledge, seeking approval, avoiding responsibility, or trying to prove something to critics. Confident people examine their motivations and make conscious choices about which goals are worth pursuing based on their own values rather than unconscious emotional needs. Financial honesty is particularly important. Many people maintain confidence by avoiding detailed knowledge of their financial situation, which creates a house of cards that can collapse suddenly. Confident people know exactly where they stand financially, understand their earning potential realistically, and make spending and investment decisions based on facts rather than optimism or fear. This brutal honesty extends to acknowledging uncomfortable truths about relationships, career prospects, and life circumstances. It means facing the fact that a relationship may not be working rather than hoping things will improve without changes. It means acknowledging when a career path is not leading where you want to go rather than continuing to invest time and energy in a direction that is not serving your goals. The development of this level of honesty is initially painful because it requires giving up comforting illusions and facing potentially disappointing realities. However, it ultimately provides tremendous power because it allows you to make decisions based on accurate information rather than wishful thinking. When your confidence is built on a foundation of truth rather than self-deception, it becomes unshakable because it can withstand contact with reality. Part 3, The Synthesis of Power and Authentic Self-Expression. The culmination of Machiavellian confidence lies not in the mere accumulation of power or influence, but in the sophisticated integration of strategic thinking with authentic self-expression. Machiavelli himself understood that the most effective leaders were not those who merely followed prescribed formulas for success, but those who could adapt timeless principles to their unique circumstances while remaining true to their essential nature. This final section explores how these 8 principles synthesize into a coherent philosophy of living that produces not just external success, but genuine self-respect and inner peace. The first aspect of this synthesis involves understanding that confidence is not a mask to be worn but a muscle to be developed. Many people approach confidence as a performance. They try to act confident until they feel confident, hoping that external behaviors will eventually create internal states. While this approach can have some merit, particularly in building initial momentum, truly sustainable confidence requires deeper work on the underlying beliefs and thought patterns that generate feelings of security and self-worth. The Machiavellian approach recognizes that genuine confidence emerges from a coherent worldview that accounts for both human nature and the realities of competition, cooperation, and change. It is not built on positive thinking or affirmations but on competence, preparation, and the kind of self-knowledge that allows for accurate assessment of both opportunities and threats. When someone has systematically developed multiple competencies, honestly assessed their strengths and weaknesses, and built a track record of handling adversity effectively, confidence becomes a natural byproduct rather than an effortful creation. This type of confidence has a different quality than manufactured bravado. It is quieter but more solid, less showy but more intimidating to those who understand what they are seeing. People with authentic confidence do not need to prove their worth constantly because they know their worth. They do not need to dominate every conversation because they are secure in their ability to contribute when it matters. They do not need to tear others down because they are not threatened by others' successes. The second aspect involves the sophisticated management of reputation and relationships that allows for both personal authenticity and strategic effectiveness. Machiavelli famously argued that it is better to be feared than loved if one cannot be both, but this advice was specific to political leadership in a context where life and death decisions were routine. For most modern applications, the more relevant wisdom involves understanding how to be both respected and genuinely liked by building relationships based on competence and reliability rather than manipulation or superficial charm. The confident person understands that reputation is built through consistent actions over time rather than clever marketing or impression management. They focus on delivering results, keeping commitments, and treating others fairly, not because they are inherently altruistic but because this approach builds the kind of social capital that provides long-term advantages. They understand that short-term gains achieved through deception or exploitation ultimately undermine their position because they create enemies and destroy trust. This approach to relationship building involves what might be called enlightened self-interest, understanding that your own long-term success is best served by contributing to others' success as well. The confident professional helps colleagues solve problems and achieve their goals not just out of kindness but because building a reputation as someone who adds value creates opportunities and allies. They share credit generously not because they are self-effacing but because they understand that leaders who develop other leaders become more powerful, not less. However, this collaborative approach is balanced with clear boundaries and the willingness to be firm when necessary. The confident person can be generous with their time and knowledge while not allowing themselves to be exploited. They can be supportive of others' goals while not sacrificing their own interests. They understand the difference between being helpful and being used, between being collaborative and being taken advantage of. The third aspect involves developing what might be called anti-fragile confidence, the ability not just to survive setbacks and criticism but to become stronger through them. This concept, popularized by Nassim Taleb but implicit in Machiavellian thinking, recognizes that the most robust systems are not those that merely resist stress but those that improve under stress. Anti-fragile confidence means actively seeking out challenges and feedback that test and strengthen your capabilities. Instead of avoiding situations where you might fail or be criticized, you deliberately expose yourself to controlled risks that provide opportunities for growth. The confident entrepreneur does not just start one business but continuously experiments with new ventures, understanding that failures provide valuable education that improves future success rates. The confident professional does not just perform their current job but actively seeks additional responsibilities and challenges that stretch their capabilities. This principle also involves developing immunity to both praise and criticism by maintaining internal standards that are more rigorous than external expectations. The confident person is pleased when others recognize their work but is not dependent on that recognition for self-validation. Similarly, they can hear criticism without being devastated because they have already identified most of their weaknesses through honest self-assessment and are actively working to address them. When setbacks occur, and they inevitably do, the person with anti-fragile confidence treats them as data rather than verdicts. A failed project is not evidence of personal inadequacy but information about what does not work in specific circumstances. A rejected proposal is not a judgment on their worth but feedback about market conditions or presentation effectiveness. This perspective allows them to extract maximum learning from negative experiences while maintaining the emotional resilience necessary to continue taking risks. The fourth aspect involves the integration of long-term vision with short-term adaptability. Machiavelli understood that effective leaders needed to balance consistency of purpose with flexibility of method. They needed to maintain their essential goals while adapting their strategies to changing circumstances. This same balance is essential for personal confidence in a rapidly changing world. Having a clear sense of your core values and long-term objectives provides stability and direction even when external circumstances are chaotic or unpredictable. The confident person knows what they stand for and where they are ultimately trying to go, which allows them to make decisions quickly when opportunities or challenges arise. They do not need to agonize over every choice because they have clear criteria for evaluation. However, this clarity of purpose is combined with tactical flexibility. They understand that the specific methods for achieving their goals may need to change as they learn more about what works and as external conditions evolve. The confident entrepreneur may pivot their business model multiple times while maintaining their core mission of solving a particular problem for customers. The confident professional may change industries or job functions while maintaining their commitment to continuous learning and value creation. This combination of strategic consistency and tactical adaptability requires what might be called principled opportunism, the ability to recognize and capitalize on unexpected opportunities while ensuring that these opportunities align with your deeper purposes. It means being prepared to move quickly when the right situation presents itself while not being so eager for advancement that you compromise your fundamental values or long-term positioning. The fifth aspect involves the development of what could be termed confident humility, the simultaneous recognition of your own capabilities and limitations, your achievements and areas for continued growth. This is perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of Machiavellian confidence because it requires holding two seemingly contradictory truths in dynamic tension. On one hand, confident humility involves accurate recognition of your strengths and accomplishments. This means being able to articulate your value proposition clearly, to negotiate effectively for compensation and opportunities, and to take credit where credit is due. Many people, particularly those from backgrounds that emphasized modesty or self-effacement, struggle with this aspect of confidence because they have been taught that promoting themselves is somehow inappropriate or arrogant. On the other hand, confident humility involves genuine recognition that you do not know everything and cannot do everything. It means being comfortable saying "I don't know" when you genuinely lack information or expertise. It means seeking advice and mentorship from those who have more experience or knowledge in areas where you want to improve. It means recognizing that your current success may be partly due to factors beyond your control, timing, luck, help from others, and therefore maintaining appropriate gratitude and perspective. This balance prevents both the arrogance that comes from overestimating your abilities and the false modesty that comes from underestimating them. It allows you to be confident in what you can do while remaining open to learning and growth. It makes you someone that others want to work with because you are neither threatening in your ego nor burdensome in your insecurity. The final aspect involves what might be called legacy consciousness, understanding that true confidence ultimately comes not just from what you achieve for yourself but from what you contribute to others and to the larger human project. Machiavelli, despite his reputation for ruthless pragmatism, was ultimately motivated by his love for his city-state and his desire to see it prosper and thrive. Legacy consciousness means understanding that your individual success is most meaningful when it is connected to something larger than yourself. This might involve mentoring younger colleagues, contributing to your community, building organizations that outlast your own involvement, or creating works that provide value to future generations. The confident person understands that their own fulfillment is enhanced when their efforts contribute to outcomes that transcend their personal benefit. This perspective provides a sense of meaning and purpose that makes individual setbacks easier to bear and individual successes more satisfying. When you understand that your work is part of a larger tapestry, temporary failures become less threatening to your identity and temporary successes become stepping stones rather than destinations. Legacy consciousness also involves making decisions based not just on immediate consequences but on long-term impact. It means considering how your actions affect not just your own outcomes but the outcomes of those around you and those who will come after you. This expanded time horizon and broader perspective naturally generate the kind of confidence that comes from knowing that your life has genuine significance. The synthesis of these 8 principles creates a form of confidence that is both personally satisfying and socially beneficial. It produces individuals who are strong enough to stand alone when necessary but wise enough to build alliances when possible. They are ambitious enough to pursue significant goals but humble enough to continue learning and growing. They are realistic enough to see the world clearly but optimistic enough to believe that their efforts can make a meaningful difference. This Machiavellian confidence is not a destination to be reached but a way of being to be continuously refined and developed. It requires ongoing attention to both inner development and external effectiveness, both personal authenticity and strategic thinking, both individual achievement and collective contribution. Those who develop this sophisticated approach to confidence find that it serves them well not just in achieving their goals but in becoming the kind of person they genuinely respect and admire. The true test of this approach is not whether it helps you win every battle but whether it helps you choose the right battles and fight them in ways that honor both your effectiveness and your integrity. When confidence is built on this foundation, competence, honesty, strategic thinking, and genuine service to something larger than yourself, it becomes a source of strength that can sustain you through any challenge and a gift that enriches not just your own life but the lives of those around you. In the end, Machiavelli's greatest insight was not about the ruthless pursuit of power but about the intelligent application of principles that account for human nature and the complexities of social existence. When these principles are applied to the development of personal confidence, they create not just more effective individuals but more complete human beings, people who can navigate the world successfully while maintaining their authenticity, who can compete effectively while contributing genuinely, and who can achieve their goals while leaving the world a little better than they found it.